Good morning. So, today the class is about the remaining things about the cerebellum. So, as we all know, the different parts of the cerebellum and what are all the connections of the cerebellum and what is its internal circuit and what is the different deep nuclei, dentate, emboliform, globose and fastigial nucleus. So all these we learnt, and also we learned about the functions of the cerebellum, and little we know, and in today's class little things about the cerebellum we'll see the functions, and then at last of the abnormalities and what are the cerebellar function tests we'll see. So before going to the functions of the cerebellum, one thing you should know that the deep cerebellar nuclei, so these are the dentate, the emboliform, globose and the fastigial nucleus. So the most medial will be the fastigial nucleus, and then your globose, emboliform and the dentate. So this is the arrangement of the deep cerebellar nuclei. So this fastigial nucleus, this is usually concerned with the vestibulocerebellum. That means the fibers, the inputs which are coming, and then the inputs which are coming to the cerebellum, okay, that is from the vestibular apparatus that actually forms the synapse with the Purkinje cells. They form synapse with the fastigial nucleus. That means fastigial nucleus is concerned with the vestibulocerebellum. The globose and emboliform, they are concerned with the spinocerebellum, and the dentate which is present laterally, they are concerned with the cerebrocerebellum. So that is the function. As you all know that the efferent, okay, coming from the afferent coming from the vestibular apparatus, so they mainly from the that flocculonodular lobe, okay. So the afferents coming from the vestibular apparatus, they reaches the flocculonodular lobe, and then from here they form the synapse, the climbing fibers, they form connections with the Purkinje cells, and those Purkinje cells, they form synapse with the fastigial nucleus. So then the dentate, okay, dentate nucleus, so their afferents coming from the neocerebellum, whereas the emboliform and the globose, so their afferents are coming from the spinocerebellum. So the most medial, the fastigial nucleus, is having the connection with the flocculonodular lobe, and then the nucleus, globose and emboliform, is having connection with the spinocerebellum, and the most lateral dentate nucleus is having connection with the neocerebellum. So this is about the connection of the deep cerebellar nuclei. Okay, so now we'll go to the functions of the cerebellum. The first and foremost and the old cerebellum, that is the vestibulocerebellum, the archicerebellum, it is also called the archicerebellum or the flocculonodular lobe. This is concerned with the control of the posture and equilibrium. So afferents coming from the vestibular apparatus pass directly or after delay in the vestibular nuclei to the flocculonodular lobe, as I explained in the last class. So the vestibular part of the vestibulocochlear nerve, they carry the fibers from this vestibular apparatus. They either directly enter into the cerebellum or they relay in the vestibular nuclei in the medulla. So in the medulla, and then from there the fibers comes from the medulla into the cerebellum. So this is responsible for the maintenance of the posture. Again, what will happen? So the fibers which are coming, this one enters the flocculonodular lobe, and then the flocculonodular lobe, so the fibers connected with the fastigial nucleus, then the afferents are coming from the fastigial nucleus. So the efferents which are coming from the cerebellum, will be from the deep cerebellar nuclei. Okay, so the fastigial nucleus, the fibers which are coming from, they will go to the vestibular nucleus via inferior cerebellar peduncle, and they will also form the medial longitudinal bundle, and they innervate the nucleus 3, 4 and 6. So that maintains the ocular movements. So this is about the flocculonodular lobe. Then coming to the stability of the head, these are the functions of the controls ocular movements and other postural reflex. Function of the vestibulocerebellum. Spinocerebellum, as we know, it maintains the posture and also helps in the execution of gross movements. It controls, it is all I explained in the last class, interplay between smooth progression from one movement to the other. That is the main function of the cerebellum. So it is essential for the control of rapid muscular activities like running and talking. So one more important thing about the cerebellum is this maintains the muscle tone as well. Control of the muscle tone. The medial part of the anterior lobe of cerebellum, they inhibits the muscle tone, whereas the lateral parts of the anterior lobe, they facilitates the muscle tone. So in normal man, the influence of the cerebellum on the muscle tone and stretch reflexes is inhibition. So in normal man, the influence of the cerebellum on the muscle tone and stretch reflexes is inhibition. But in a cerebellar lesion, you can see hypotonia, decreased muscle tone. So the pathway for this is the anterior lobe inhibits the muscle tone, mainly in the extensor muscles of the same side of the body. The effects are mediated via the fastigial nucleus to the ipsilateral vestibular nuclei and to the bulbar reticular formation. So these nuclei in turn relay the effects to the spinal motor neurons. So that is the pathway for the muscle tone. And one of the important function of the cerebellum is the control of movements. So the controls the movements, that is, it does not initiate the movement, but when the movement is initiated, then it coordinates the movement. That is, it is responsible for the appropriate regulation of the time, rate, range, force and direction of the muscular activity. This is the important function of the cerebellum. So this is responsible for the appropriate regulation of the time, rate, range, force and direction of the muscular activity. So that's it. That is the main function of the cerebellum. That is, when once the movement is initiated in the cerebral cortex, so it sends a copy. Cerebral cortex in the sense motor cortex, supplementary motor cortex and then somatosensory area as well, so that the movement will be initiated there. So immediately what will happen, it sends a copy, okay, to the cerebellum and as well as to the basal ganglia. So these two are very important for the initiation, for the movements, okay, for the muscle movement, for the movements of the body. So it sends immediately a copy to the cerebellum and as well as a copy to the basal ganglia. So this pathway we call cerebrocerebellum, that is cerebral to the pontine nucleus, and then from the pontine it enters into the cerebellum through the middle cerebellar peduncle. So we know that these fibers should go to the dentate nucleus, and from the dentate nucleus the fibers returns, okay, either it can directly go to the cerebral cortex or relay in the thalamus, and then from the thalamus it goes to the cerebral cortex. So this pathway is called as the corticoponto dentate thalamocortical circuit. So this pathway acts as a comparator mechanism. So this is also called comparator of a servo mechanism. That means what is the main function is, the cerebellum is receiving the information from the cerebral, it receiving information from the different parts of the body, that is the where the peripheral parts are present and what is its actual position. So all these things, so continuously, unconsciously, subconsciously it will be there in the cerebellum. So when once the movement is initiated in the cerebral cortex, immediately it sends the impulses to the cerebellum. So first what will cerebellum do? It will compare, okay, it's already receiving information from the different parts of the body, and it's receiving information from the cerebral cortex. So what is what the cerebral cortex wants to perform, so which movement it should perform and what is the initial position. So all this, first it will compare it, then it sends the impulses to send, then it compares this thing and sends the required information to the cerebral cortex through this pathway, and from there the cerebral cortex, that is the corticospinal tract and all these things, so they perform some action. And here one more thing is that when the action is going on, again the cerebellum is getting the information about what is the action is going on, what the action is going on, and whether it is correct, whether the required action is going on. So all these information again goes to the cerebellum. So it's a master in executing the movements. So this is, so when there is movement is initiated and then it goes to the cerebellum, it compares, and then from the cerebellum again it goes to the cerebral cortex. So the cerebral cortex through corticospinal tract it performs some movements. So from this also, so due the corticospinal tract again, so what will happen, so some movements will be going on. So again from the receptors, okay, from the receptors, that is proprioception and all, again the cerebellum is getting the information whether the movement is going on in a proper way, required way. So that is the function of the cerebellum, and this is called comparator of a servo mechanism. So the cerebellum, it receives a representation of the corticospinal activity as well, okay, corticospinal activity, a copy of the corticospinal activity also it will get, and it gets a copy of the representation of result in terms of the muscle movement from the proprioceptor of the muscles. So this cerebellum, this is the main function of the cerebellum. And after after the execution of the movement through corticospinal tract. So then again it compare, I already mentioned that again it compares through the proprioception. So if there is any alteration, so again immediately the information will be go to the cerebral cortex again, then there will be changes in the movements. So that is the main function of the cerebellum, and so that's why this cerebellum plays an important role in the learning of motor skills. So it controls both involuntary movements and the voluntary movements. That is when the movement is initiated in the cerebral cortex. Okay, so what will happen, it sends immediately a copy to the cerebellum and also basal ganglia. So basal ganglia is already done, so just I am telling about the cerebellum. So what will happen, immediately the cerebellum is already receiving the information from the different parts of the body, so it compares the two and sends impulses to the cerebral cortex. So the cerebral cortex, then it performs through the corticospinal tract. So then the corticospinal tract, then there will be some movement of the muscles. So the movement of the muscles which is occurring, so again this information is going to the cerebellum through proprioception, and also on the way corticospinal tract, so it also sends a copy to the cerebellum. I am performing this function. So all this again it will be compared. Okay, so the movement is occurring, again the cerebellum is getting the information, so it's comparing whether the required movement is going on. If there is any alteration, again it sends impulses to the cerebral cortex, then it performs the then it change that corrections it will made. So this is the main function of the cerebellum. So this is the comparator of a servo mechanism. And also the important thing about the cerebellum is it is responsible for the appropriate regulation of the rate, time, range, extent and the direction of the movements. So that's about the function of the cerebellum. So now we'll go to, so this I already mentioned, sir. Okay, so these are the cerebellar function tests. So few tests are there to study the cerebellum. So finger nose test, finger nose test, heel knee test, gait, and then alternate pronation and supination. So all these are the tests for the, and then rebound phenomenon. So these are tests. Finger nose test means the patient is asked to place the index finger of his extended arm over his nose with eyes closed. Ask the subject to bring the finger away towards his nose. Okay, with eyes closed, ask the subject to bring the finger which is away at the initial position, the initial place. Then ask him to bring this finger towards the nose. It should touch the finger tip of the nose. So that is the coordination. And same thing, that is finger test. And then the heel knee test. The patient lies in the lying down position. He is asked to touch his knee by the opposite heel, then moving the heel along the tibia downwards. So this test detects the decomposition of the movements. And then the alternate, that is alternate pronation and supination, diadechokinesia. So the patient is the subject asks the subject to perform alternate supination and pronation. So in the cerebellar lesion, so there will be absence of this. They can't do alternate supination and pronation. So this is because they cannot start or stop the movements quickly or easily, and their motions are slow and irregular. So that is the function of the cerebellum. So that it is responsible for the appropriate regulation of the rate, range, the degree, extent and time of the movements. And then rebound phenomenon. If the patient is asked to flex his forearm against resistance, then the resistance is suddenly released, the patient cannot break the movement, and the released forearm flies backward and strikes his face. So this is a good example for the, so here, so ask the subject, okay, to flex his forearm against resistance. Okay, so what will happen immediately if you release the resistance? So what will happen because of the force? So what will happen? The flexion of the forearm, so he may hit his face, he may slap his face. So if there is cerebellar intact, so what will happen? There will be sudden stoppage of the force, the sudden flexion of sudden stoppage of the movement. So that is the one thing about the cerebellar function. That is, if the patient is asked to flex his forearm against resistance, if the resistance is released immediately, the patient cannot break the movement. That breaking of the movement, so, is by the cerebellum. So if you can't break the movement, what will happen? He will go and slap his face. So if the cerebellum is intact, so it immediately sends the information from the proprioceptors, so that you should stop the movement. So that is the function of the cerebellum, and that is the rebound phenomenon. So these are all the cerebellar function tests, and this will be demonstrated while dealing with the CNS examination practical. Okay, and at last, that is the effects of cerebellar lesion, cerebellar dysfunction. So these are all the things you will see in the cerebellar lesion. And one important note before going to this, that each cerebellar hemisphere influences the opposite cerebral cortex. In turn, the motor cortex via the corticospinal tracts controls the movements of the opposite side of the body. Because of the double decussation or the crossing, that is of the superior cerebellar peduncle and of the pyramidal tracts, each cerebellar hemisphere controls voluntary movements on its own side of the body. So this is about the thing about the important note about the cerebellum. So at last we'll see the cerebellar lesions. Okay, the cerebellar lesion of one hemisphere produces dysfunction on the same side of the body, whereas the lesion of the vermis affect both the sides. This is because of the anatomical distribution. Okay, that is, the vermis will be having both the sides. So that's why if there is lesion of the vermis, you will see the lesion of the vermis affects both the sides. Lesion of cerebellar cortex causes movement abnormalities which gradually disappear as compensation occurs, while lesion of the deep cerebellar nuclei produce generalized defects and abnormalities persist. That is lesion of the cerebellar cortex. And then damage to the neocerebellum. If there is a damage to the neocerebellum, so that causes most of the dysfunction. So we'll see what are all the things. First thing is ataxia, and then hypotonia, I already mentioned, and then dysmetria, dysdiadochokinesia, and then the decomposition of movements, lack of smooth flow of the movement, speech defect, pendular knee jerk, intention tremors, nystagmus. So all these are the uh, all these are the signs of the cerebellar dysfunction. First is ataxia, that is incoordination of movement. The main function of the cerebellum is coordination. So incoordination of movement is marked. Therefore, there is decomposition of the movement. So one example is, we checked, that is the knee heel test, to check the decomposition of the movement. The patient cannot easily combine the movements of several joints into a single smooth coordinated motion. So that we know that the knee heel test, for example, to move the arm, they might first move the shoulder, then the elbow, like that. And that is about the ataxia. And you will see in ataxia, that is asynergia and dysmetria as well. So asynergia means lack of coordination between protagonists, antagonists and synergistic muscles. Dysmetria means the movement is poorly carried out in direction, range and force. So therefore the movements overshoot their intended mark. So that is the past pointing, or hypermetria we can call, and you may see hypometria, fall short of it. So the movement is poorly carried out in the direction, range and force. So that is the important function of the cerebellum, so that will be lost. So that is called as dysmetria. In dysmetria you can see past pointing or the fall short of it. Then the hypotonia, that is decreased muscle tone. The muscle tone is either completely lost or markedly decreased on the affected side due to the loss of facilitatory effect, that is of the neocerebellum. So this is having the facilitatory effect, the neocerebellum. So that will be lost, and that there will be muscle tone will be decreased. And then the dysmetria, I already mentioned this. And then dysdiadochokinesia, that is difficult to perform alternate pronation and supination. So failure to perform rapid alternating movements. And then the lack of speech defect as well. So the speech muscles that needs a coordination. So what will happen, for the speech, they require the coordination of muscles of the tongue. So that will be lost. So there will be speech defect. And then intentional tremors and nystagmus. Nystagmus means it's a tremor of the eyeballs which occurs when the patient attempts to fix his eyes on an object. So it consists of a slow to and fro movement on looking to the affected side due to hypotonia, and a rapid to and fro movement on looking to the opposite side. So that is the nystagmus. If the eyes are closed, spontaneous deviation also you can see. If the eyes are closed and the arms are held straight out in front of the body, the homolateral arms bend laterally. So that is spontaneous deviation. You can see asthenia as well, that is feebleness of the movements. And then so these are all the different these are all the signs of the cerebellar lesion. And you should know about the intentional tremors as well. That is, it's a common feature of a cerebellar lesion. So such patients cannot perform movements smoothly. If they reach for an object, their movements are jerky and accompanied by oscillating to and fro tremors. So that become more marked as the hand approaches the object. So that is the intentional tremors. So they can't perform the movements smoothly. For example, if they want to reach for an object, their movements are jerky and accompanied by oscillating to and fro tremors that become more marked as the hand approaches the object. So that is the intentional tremors. And then gait, the patient walks awkwardly with the feet well apart. They have such difficult maintaining balance that their gait appears drunken. So that's why drunken gait is seen in cerebellar lesion. The patient walks in a zigzag line and deviates to the affected side due to hypotonia. So these are all the different signs of the cerebellum. So that is the ataxia, dysmetria, then asynergia, and then hypotonia, nystagmus, intention tremors, and then dysdiadochokinesia, pendular jerk, and so all these things are the signs of the cerebellar lesion. So this is about the cerebellum. If you have any doubt, please you can ask me during the interactive session. So that's about the cerebellum. Thank you.